participants, so that's terrific. Again, welcome. I'm Rachel Keegan-Kelly, the Director of Enrollment at School Year Abroad, and this is the SYA Italy admissions reception. We've saved the best for last. We had our Spain reception on Tuesday and France yesterday, and here we are with our SYA Italy attendees. We have a great program planned for you this afternoon. I think we hope that you've come with some questions and you leave with answers and a lot more information than you probably expected. We're going to start the afternoon program with a brief video, and then our resident director, who is based in Viterbo and runs the program, he is going to be here and have a great conversation with two current students, Alex and Camila, and they will introduce themselves when it's their section of the program. And then we have their parents here, which I think is one of the best parts, in hearing their perspectives of what it was like to make the decision as a family and what it's been like to have their child currently abroad. Last year, we did these events online, and we actually did them only with alums. We didn't have the parents because we had no students last year. We were closed because of COVID. And so we had alums with their parents, often in the same room. And this is the first time we're doing it with parents in the States and students abroad. And it's really very special to even see them get to connect in our little green room before we start this event. So we're happy to have everyone here. We'll finish the program this afternoon. We'll leave enough time for questions and answers. I want to invite people to ask their questions either in the Q&A box or the chat box. We'll answer some of those questions. We've got Bryce Koval here, the Assistant Director of Admissions, who some of you may already know. He, and as well as Shauna Campbell, our Admissions Marketing Manager, will be doing their best to answer questions as the program go on, but we will have a verbal question and answer at the end of the program. I'm very cognizant of the time. It's late over in Italy, so we're going to keep this to 60 minutes. If we do not get to your question, we will be in touch with answers, and please, I invite you to reach out to us and the admissions team throughout this process if you still have unanswered questions at the end of this event. So we're going to start with the video. Shauna?
The walk to school is actually really cool. If you take the time to really engage in what's happening around you, to look around and see how beautiful of a place you are. Sometimes there are days where I'm just looking around and taking in what now is my home.
Everybody says it's life-changing. Everybody says that it's the experience of a lifetime, and I can't think of any other words. It's not just schoolwork. It's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
Having to figure out my own environment, the confidence that I have built from that is the biggest thing I'll take away from SYA Italy. Each second that I got here, I knew I made the right choice. There's no way to describe it.
Studying ancient history or archaeology or Latin or Greek gives you a lot of opportunities for the hands-on. And Italy, in this sense, with its 3,000 years of civilizations, can give to a young mind an experience that is almost impossible to describe in words.
I love challenge. Being able to come back and say, oh my gosh, I spoke Italian all day. I made my way all the way to Rome. It's liberating to be able to have that kind of independence that most high school students don't get the chance to experience. I've realized that the world is a lot smaller and a lot more connected than I ever imagined.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying, I'm part Italian now, and I'm part of their family, and they love me, and I love them. And The relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
I know it can be sort of scary and thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country, it flies by so fast and it's so fun and it's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. And it's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
Just by applying, you're seeing, hey, I want something different, I want something new. And if it's something that you want to do it.
Always fun seeing that video. It's not that old, but it's always just fun to see it. Oh, wait. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I thought it was unmuted. Mr. Scanlon, I'm going to let you take it away with our two students.
Well, thank you, Rachel, and benvenuti a tutti, no matter what time of day it is for you. Beg your pardon. I want to introduce Alex Barton and Camila Fraser Fajardo, who are with us tonight. Alex and his host family, and Camila is out with hers, who stepped outside from dinner tonight to talk to you about this wonderful program. A bit of frog in my throat all of a sudden, badly timed. But as I was watching that video, I was really reminded of how often we are outside the classroom, and I want to talk to you about our focus and our mission, which has us designing a curriculum where we tell ourselves that we really want activities and challenges and assignments that we can only do here. And so we structure our week around fieldwork, and besides having English and math in sequence and in sort of the same levels as you would have at your home school, if each student takes 2 classes in Italian and 2 other electives. And those classes, the electives, work in conjunction with the place we are in the families we're in, and are cemented by the language. So fieldwork happens on Wednesday, and the first part of the week builds up to that, and the second part of the week sort of debriefs from that. Sometimes those Wednesdays are linked in thematic sequences. Other times they're sort of standalone. And I'm going to ask the students to talk a little bit about some of their experiences that they've had at fieldwork, what they remember about it, what they learned, and it's really a good place to start. So cominciamo con te, Alessandro, se puoi dire un attimo cosa ti piace del fieldwork.
Sì. So for those who don't speak Italian, he asked me what I liked about fieldwork, and I have to say it's the ability and the opportunity to get out into the local and regional and sometimes national community to explore the place that I'm living in a way that I never would be able to normally. So it's always super cool to do fieldworks.
Grazie. E Camilla, un esempio che ti è piaciuto, qualcosa che abbiamo fatto che ti ricordi bene?
So he just asked me one of my favorite fieldwork, or a fieldwork example, and what I liked about it. Off the top of my head, I'd have to say, okay, I believe it was in November or October. We were all put in these random groups, and we were sent off to like towns around Viterbo and around the province. And at first, my group and I, it did not start off well, but the day like quickly turned around as soon as we got to Scania, which is where it's in the province. And getting there was hard. It took a lot of teamwork, and but it was one of the best days, one of the best memories I have of field work. It just ended up being so much fun, and I got to explore this like tiny, quaint, beautiful town so close to us, and I got to bond with my friends, so it was really fun. And of course, speaking Italian, and we met this really sweet woman at a jewelry store, and we just spoke with her, and it was a great day. So that's just one example, but field work days are normally the highlight of my week.
I was watching Alex nod at that. So one thing you didn't tell them, which I'll sort of give a little away, is that the students come to school that day and they're not told what they're going to do. And so they open an envelope with a destination and without any instructions about how to get there, a few instructions about what to do when they get there, with the safety net underneath that they could reach us if there's an emergency. But they have to figure that out, and we close them outside the school and lock the door until they get back. And some of the best things that happen on that day is they often get really lost. But it's a wonderful place to get lost, because that's where the learning happens. And so students come back just sort of over the moon about that. We design our fieldwork with those sort of challenges in mind and design into them incomplete information. We don't provide all the information because discovery and problem-based education is sort of what we're all about. And that philosophy is carried into our other classes as well. So thanks for sharing that, you two. I also want to talk beyond the curriculum about life outside of school. And I'll, from extracurriculars to living in a host family, to the time you spend doing free things. Camilla, cominciamo adesso con te. Se puoi descrivere una giornata tipica o dopo scuola o durante sabato o domenica.
Okay, so certo. He asked me to describe either a typical weekend day or after school. So typically, my host sisters and I, we love watching like TV shows. I got them, and actually my host mom too, I got them started on a bunch of TV shows. So when I come home from school, I do my homework with my host sister downstairs, and afterwards we start preparing for dinner and we cook together, and we set the table. And after dinner, we typically, if I have homework, but normally by then I'm done, but we watch TV shows. And then on weekends, it tends to be pretty similar. We watch movies together, or we go out into Viterbo, or sometimes we go out of Viterbo with my host family. I've been to Siena with them for a day trip, down to the beach earlier in September. So it's typically stuff like that.
Grazie. Alessandro, se puoi parlare un attimo delle cose tue extrascolastiche e anche cosa fanno altri amici tuoi, giusto per dare una varietà delle cose possibili.
Sì. So he asked me to describe some of my extracurriculars and some of the things that my friends do after school. I do my week more or less goes like this. Mondays, and I've started this semester because I think it's a fantastic program. There's this thing called Gemologgio, which is where Italian students and SYA students meet up, and the Italian students speak English and we speak Italian. And so there's this language switch, and you get these really interesting conversations. And it's a really great opportunity to improve your language skills. So I'm going to be doing that on Mondays, every other Monday. And then Tuesdays, I have piano lessons. Wednesday, extracurriculars are usually, we usually spend a lot of the time in fieldwork. And then Thursday, I'm part of a small local choir in which I interact with. There's one other American, and then it's all Italian. So the whole practice session is in Italian. I learn a lot of very specific technical vocabulary from the teacher, and a lot of slang and practical vocabulary from the other choir students. Obviously, because of COVID, it's not super big. There's like 6 or 7 people, but that's got to be one of my favorite extracurriculars. And then Friday, every other Friday, my host dad actually hosts a law internship in which a group of students learn practical knowledge about how the legal system works. We do we examine different cases in Italy and how Italian law compares with American law and then international law, which is incredibly interesting. Saturdays, I'm the group leader for a program that sends students to a soup kitchen, and you have 2 students go, and they talk with the other volunteers, all in Italian, and they help out in the local community. And yeah, that's just a lot of fun. So that was a lot, but that's all of my extracurriculars. I know if you want to do sports, yes.
Yeah, there's a soccer opportunity that students have, but we have students do. You saw in the video. There's some boxing. There's Thai boxing, tennis, volleyball, basketball, other opportunities. We have an extracurricular coordinator here on campus that helps students find these opportunities. But for instance, we have a student this year that found a rock climbing gym without our even knowledge that there was one. So we encourage students to go out and find things on their own. Some of the more intrepid students do exactly that. And then we have contacts with those providers later. So all the extracurriculars are associated with private providers off campus. And each student is encouraged to engage in those to the extent that they're able and want to. And many of our students end up doing things they would have never imagined, stained glass, ceramics, carving, dance classes that they might not have thought they would, yoga. There's just a lot to do and a lot to choose from. In fact, I would say that if there's any, and Camila and Alessandro, you can back me up on this, it often happens that students' eyes are bigger than their stomachs, and so that they wanted to do all these things, and we encourage them to just focus on the things that they can do and do well, which really helps their language skills, etc. Both of you mentioned your families, and I just wanted to say a word about how we find the families and how we match students to those families. Families now, for the last 5 or 6 years, come to us by word of mouth from other families. So we just have a great deal of families that love this experience and host for the benefit that a student brings to their family and how they can open their mind to different ideas by having a student from a different cultural viewpoint. We interview each one of these families that comes to us. We do on-site visits to determine if the house is suitable in many ways, distance-wise from school, because not all of our families live right in the walled city that you saw in the video. Some live just outside. Alex lives just outside, and Camila lives just outside of town. Might be a small bus or a bus ride in, or a small ride in from the family, but nobody lives more than 15-minute drive from school, and that's important because the town of Viterbo, it's more, the local inhabitants are always correcting me that they don't see Viterbo as a city, they see it as a town. We think that that is one of our greatest assets, that this town is small, it's intimate, people really get to know each other on a personal level. You got to see some bit in the video there, but I'd like you, Ale, se puoi parlare un attimo di Viterbo stesso, dalla gente che si trova dentro, e un po' cosa fai quando non stai facendo una attività o qualcosa del genere, quando tu puoi avere tempo libero in questo piccolo paese.
Okay. So he asked me to talk about Viterbo itself, the people that one finds in Viterbo, and some things that I would do if I'm not doing extracurriculars or homework or any of that. Like he said, Viterbo, in it being a town, means that you really get to know all of the locals. I have really gotten to know well, as do a lot of people, the different baristas at the 2 or 3 cafes that the students often frequent. And it's great to improve your language, but also to just like get to know those people on a personal level. And when it definitely has a smaller town feel, which means that often you sort of have more deeper, in-depth conversations with those people, which is fantastic. If I'm not doing anything, I would probably just walk around the town. And I think a lot of us forget often how pretty the place that we live in is. Like, it is a really, really beautiful, amazing town. There's gardens and castles and just all of this amazing architecture of varying periods and churches, and just like, it's all so amazing that honestly, walking around and just seeing things, even if I've been here for 5 months, it's still so amazing to just walk.
Grazie. E Camilla, puoi anche parlare del tempo, che con, se è freddo, o anche le cose che fai tu dopo scuola.
Okay, so he asked me to talk about the weather and what I would do after school if I didn't have any of those other things. So it is, okay, so it's really cold for me right now. I'm from Florida, so it's about like, it's like low 40s, I want to say, something around there. So I am freezing, but the weather is very nice. It's beautiful. We've had a particularly lovely week this week. I think yeah, it's been beautiful, sunny, and there's seasons, so I don't get that in Florida, so it's lovely. And after, okay, so if I'm not really doing anything extracurricular wise or homework, I'd also take a walk in Viterbo. There's so much to see, and even tomorrow, for example, I'm going to the Saturday market. There's a market every Saturday, and I'm going with my friends just to look around, and it's really fun. There's stuff like that all the time. There's markets right outside the town in the square, and during Christmas there was an ice skating rink, so people do that. There's just always something to do, honestly. If you're just walking around, you're bound to find something fun to walk into.
Grazie. And so among all the things that there are to do, I want to also mention that travel is a very important part of our program, and I'd like you to see that travel has sort of two components. There's what we consider study travel, where we as a school travel together. Sometimes that travel happens on a Wednesday. Those, because we only have a day, those are usually not to very far-flung locations. We did take a school trip in November to Florence, and we're going to take a trip in March to Sicily. The trip to Sicily, because it's farther away and it's a spring trip, will allow us to have 10 days away, whereas Florence was 5. And those trips are integrated within the curriculum and have a great deal to do with field work as well. Beg your pardon. But then there's also the opportunity for what we call independent travel, and that has two kinds. One is overnight independent travel, where students are allowed to travel away from their host families with the permission of their parents at home, and with my permission, based on an itinerary that they submit that meets the criteria for safety and meets a great deal of criteria preparatory to that, also for language proficiency, academic good standing, and safety. So those trips can also afford students day trips. So Saturday, you decide you want to go to Rome, you can go to Rome for the day. And Rome is the most popular destination for day travel, of course. Camilla, puoi pensare di un viaggio che hai fatto o indipendentemente oppure con la scuola che vuoi parlare un po'?
See, so he asked me to talk about one of my own independent travel experiences or travel with the school. So recently, the last one I went to was Naples. We were there for the weekend that we have a few days off in December. because of a holiday here. And it was amazing. It's such a cool way to learn and make mistakes and get to know Italy. I mean, Naples has become one of my favorite places that I've been to so far, and it was absolutely incredible. Of course, the food was phenomenal. And then in terms of travel with the school, Florence was probably the best trip that I've been on, like, period, being here. Florence is absolutely beautiful. I fell in love with everything there. I actually want to go back for independent travel at some point if I can. But it's such a cool opportunity to get to know Italy on your own and to get to experience the rest of it, because there's so much to do and see everywhere.
Grazie. Alessandro, cosa vuoi aggiungere riguardo viaggi?
Lei ha detto quasi tutto, ma I would say no, that was a pretty good summary. I would say the only other thing I would add is that it's just a fantastic way to gain confidence in the things that you can do on your own, that a lot of high schoolers don't have. Like, I never thought I would be able to plan a trip, book train tickets, take a train, go to a hotel, check into a hotel, and do all of these things that I thought were that's what adults do. That's sort of like I had it above things that I thought I was capable of doing. And independent travel has showed me that I'm capable of a lot more than I initially thought.
And you didn't mention that you did all those things in a second language that you are learning, which makes it even all the more remarkable. So I will mention that both Alex and Camila are full year students. They're here from the beginning at the end of August, early September till the end of May. But we also have fall and spring semester options. Our spring semester students just arrived on January 10th. We said goodbye to our fall semester students. Both groups are integrated, both in terms of the group and in terms of language. Now, the fact that our students, most of whom come as raw beginners, some of our spring students come in as raw beginners when, like Alex and Camila, who have language skills that they've been working on for close to 5 months, end up being helpful to those students who come in. But our spring semester students took it seriously and did a lot of preparatory work prior to arrival that has them further along than they would have been if they had just come sort of cold turkey. But the spring and fall options might be available to you for various reasons, and our admissions office can talk to you more about those options if you have questions. But at this point, Rachel, I think we've covered all we need to do in our portion. I want to turn it back over to you.
Sorry, I was muted, didn't say that. Thank you, Mr. Scanlon, and thank you, Alex and Camila, especially Camila being outside. Really appreciate your input. If you do need to go, Camila, I hope you can stay till the end, but we don't want to, we heard some great stuff from you. So if you need to leave, just let us know. I'd like now to introduce or have our parents introduce themselves and sort of share their perspectives, and then we can segue to our question and answer. There's a bunch of questions that are piling up that are great that I think parents and students can help us answer. So maybe we can start with Alex's parents, if that's okay.
Sure, we'll go first. I saw Dan at the ready though, so I'm gonna let you go. So my name is Karen Barton.
I'm DJ. Hi.
And we're Alessandro's parents, his familia. I think I'm saying that right. I'm probably embarrassing Alex. We have been very, very pleased with Alex's experience so far. As Alex mentioned, he has grown confident Alex has already been a pretty confident individual. He's pretty easygoing and has always had an interest in travel and other cultures and things like that. But what's important about this experience is that even for someone who has that appetite, I mean, you heard him, he's grown even more confident. He's got skills that he wasn't really sure he had. I'm thrilled as a mother that now he knows what it takes to plan travel and things like that. And I think just having the opportunity to really engage in a language, he's had such a passion for language in other cultures for so long. He took it on himself to investigate this program. He took it on himself to learn the language as much as he could before he got there, and really we're very proud of him. He's just dove right in. And I think one of the beautiful things about this particular program is for someone who's confident like Alex, or probably for other kids who may not have the confidence that he has, the host family that surrounds him and the school that surrounds them really provides, particularly as a parent, in just enough structure with just enough freedom that they can build that confidence in the right way. It's not like they're just left out there on their own. It's not like sending them off as a semester student in college, right, to just figure it all out. There are those supports, so that's what's comforting to us, and they also take it seriously to the security, the safety, but also that discovery. I think Mr. Scanlon is absolutely right, like how they are allowed that freedom and they're learning new things, and he's learning things that maybe he probably wouldn't have spent a lot of time on. So it's really pushed his other attention and experiences. And so I would say that's probably it's a once in a lifetime experience, and the academics have been really good. He's doing a good job. We still hold very high standards for his homework and his practicing and those things like that. So, and he's really met the challenge in all of those ways. And I think that says a lot about the teachers there and how they're open to and willing to put in the effort to have personal relationships with the students, and so that they also feel supported and feel part of the community. I'm the talker.
Donald, do you want to share anything?
The only thing I'll add is that I've been impressed with how vigilant the school has been, particularly with COVID, and also how safety is such a big concern. Mr. Scanlon mentioned earlier the prerequisites that the students had to meet in order to do that independent travel, and Alex was sharing those constraints with me, and it was very rigorous. There was a lot of rules about who could travel, when the hotel had to meet these conditions, had to have a 24-hour desk manned, all these kind of things. I was very impressed with the attention to detail and how concerned the school is with the well-being of the students.
That's great. Thank you both very much. Camila's parents?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm Daniel, and this is my wife, Claudia.
Nice to meet you.
And yeah, as Camila mentioned, we're here from South Florida, so we are, it's a little warmer where we are, Camila. Sorry. But I think like Alex, Camila was very, very independent on her own. In fact, when this whole process started, unfortunately, she was delayed the 1 year because of the pandemic. So she was accepted 2 years ago into this program. But when she signed up, she just asked, I want to do this. And I said,
go ahead.
You're on your own. Do what you got to do. Just let us know and keep us tuned in. And she went through the whole process and the application process, and SYA was just fantastic to work with in that process. And again, everything that we hear from Camila and her host family has just been nothing but positive.
We have tears almost every week, at least 2 or 3 times, for all the things that she's being able to accomplish there, with the help, of course, of all the security protection organization. SYA is amazing, taking care of all these childs. My daughter, our daughter, is extremely happy. It's every day something amazing for her to share with us and jump around and show the happiness. At the point she's thinking to stay there. She would love to stay. She applies in the university and probably she's going to stay. I mean, at that point, it's amazing. We are losing her in a good way if she can conquer the war, thanks to SYA to give this opportunity to her. So we are very blessed. I'm very thankful, and my eyes get teary because it's amazing. I am speechless.
Yeah, it's funny because we hear, and Camila said, I think in week 1, that she's just living the dream. And if I had $1 every time she told me living the dream, she'd be paying for more independent travel because she's very, very happy. And it's really what she wanted to do. And we're so impressed with SYA and so thankful for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Really, really appreciate that. Valuable perspectives. So we've got some questions here, which I'm going to read through. So just give me a moment. So I'm going to kind of jump around and ask some of you to share your perspectives here. So one question is, have the parents gone to Italy to see their children's, or is it 9 months fully away? Parents, do you want to sort of respond as to what you all did sort of this, or your plans are for this year?
Go ahead, Karen.
You're off mute. You first, Dan.
Okay. Well, we actually chose not to go. We did not go for the holiday break. There's a chance that Claudia may be going, maybe possibly in March, but again, it's sort of on the call. We just chose not to go. Camila's host family has just been so good. We actually see them. We speak on What's Up app. So we've talked to the mother. They've included her in all of their travels. So we felt very comfortable with her. And again, her friendships that she's made there has just been, you know, I'm sure Camila misses us a lot, just like we miss her, but it was just our choice.
We want to let her experience totally. We don't want to stop her for things she wants to do and stop her because we're going to visit her. So, okay, mommy, I want to see you. We want to see you too. But I want to let her go. She wants to travel. She went to London with the host family to travel. I mean, so it's been a lot, and we really want she enjoys the opportunity to be up there. For the other parts, we have still time when she comes back.
And it's important to note too that the host family, when you meet that host family, your child's part of that family from the beginning of the program to the last day of the program. There's no holiday breaks where they expect the children to leave at all. So that absolutely is an option, and not all parents do go and visit, but many do, right, Karen?
Yeah, we chose to go. We actually went and we just got back a couple of weeks ago. We spent all of Alex's Christmas break with him and with his host family, a good bit of it. I mean, we traveled a lot in a lot of the northern part of Italy. We tried to fit in as much as we could, maybe a lot of too many miles on the rental car. But just really saw it as an opportunity for us to have, explorations as a family, but to balance that with his host family as well. We even got to go to some classes because we got there just before school let out and got to see him in action. We were part of a field day. Mr. Scanlon allowed us to tag along at the Vatican. So we can attest to kind of how all of that works as well. But it was, we may or may not go back for spring break, but was certainly worth it. And again, the host family and the school just welcomed us as if we were just part of the whole program. So it was a wonderful experience.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Scanlon, there's a question here. Do all the students take the same classes? You touched on it just a little bit when you described the curriculum, but I don't know if you can talk just a little bit about potentially students who are interested in classics and what kind of options might be available to students with the required courses versus the electives.
Sure, and I saw that Bryce also forwarded the catalog, so I'll just do a quick summary of what you could study more carefully in that link that he sent. Every student takes 4 required classes. There's some exceptions to that, but it would be English, Italian language, experiential Italian. One is more grammar-based and one is more practical, and usually math. So for the students who opt out of the math program, they would take 3 electives, and for everyone else, they would take 2. So you can have a classics-based set of options for your electives like Latin, Greek, or history, or you could take our very popular science course, which is applied agroecology, or our very popular global issues course called Local Global Perspectives. It looks at sort of modern politics, anthropology, current events, and those electives start in English and increase their use of Italian as the year goes on. So students who come in the springtime have some catching up to do, and with much support from the teachers themselves and other students, but the use of Italian gradually increases in our electives as time goes on. So there's some choice among the 2 electives that students can take. All students carry 6 courses. And it would be best if you did look in the course catalog to see what those options are.
Yeah, perfect. And then just quickly, in terms of the semester students versus the year-long, when it comes to the course enrollments, there is a question here about, are the students together and which classes are they together and that sort of thing.
So they're together in their elective courses, but so that we can accommodate raw beginners when they come in the spring. And because those courses are held in the same blocks as experiential Italian language and math and English, to accommodate the spring semester students, the core classes, as we call them, are generally held with the semester students together, and then their elective courses are mixed with the year-round students. But of course, there's a lot of mixing going on outside of classes, on the trips, and in various activities as well.
Perfect, thank you. Alex, there's been a couple questions just around homework load. If you could just talk a little bit about sort of the amount of time, both you and Camila touched on it a little bit, but again, a couple of questions on sort of the amount of time that you have to spend doing homework, that would be great.
Sure. So I would say that depending on the time of year and what classes you take, homework can vary. But I would also say that usually you have enough time in your schedule to work a significant amount on your homework during the school day, so that you don't have to do so much at home. I think that the homework load is pretty manageable, and that those free periods do allow you to get most of it done.
Great, thank you. There's a quick question here about the winter break dates for 2022. Those have not yet been set, but they will be set soon. Before you actually have to make a decision, we will, to enroll if you're accepted. We have what we call a basic calendar that has beginning and end date of the program, as well as the winter break date, so that you do have that information in advance, but they are not yet set. I encourage you, though, to look at the website under SYA Italy, and you can see this year's calendar, and the calendars are similar from year to year, to give you a sense of when school is breaking, when the SAT is administered, when some of the school trips happen, things like that. It's a pretty detailed calendar, and it'll give you a sense of the flow of the year. Looking at the questions here. As parents, were you able to connect to the host families before your students left? It's a good question. Did you have a chance to do that, and what was that like?
Well, we spoke via email a few times. It was actually, she's been fantastic to speak with, but once Camila arrived, it's all been over the internet with WhatsApp app.
Yeah, before she went there, we were, you're as a parent, you're very curious anyways to know where they're going to be, with who. So yes, we have a big approach with them. Actually, we interchange pictures, we show each other families, pets, we interchange things we like each other as a families, and we are very common. We'll finalize being like another of us there.
Yeah.
So like we are on one big family, and it's amazing, beautiful. You can absolutely talk to your host parents, kids. Yes.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Karen, did you want to share?
Same here, but we did a couple of Zoom meetings as well, just to kind of see each other and interact. But then, like Dan said, we, sharing pictures and just really being part of their family as well. Very generous folks.
No. Here's a question: are the spring semester students allowed to do independent travel, Mr. Scanlon, and how does that work since they're sort of newly arrived in country?
The answer is yes, and they go through a very similar but a little bit accelerated process to be able to get to those dates than the fall students did, because we're finding that they get here with more Italian than we thought they might have. They are a half a year older than they would have been if they got here. So by accelerated, it may be a couple weeks early, and a month and a half into the program, independent travel is available to our spring semester students who meet the criteria that we spoke about earlier. So yes,
Great.
The answer is yes.
Perfect, thank you. A quick question: how many students are from boarding and day schools? We enroll students from boarding schools, day schools, and public schools, day independent schools. So a majority of our students are not boarding students, certainly, but there's a mix of students from all over the country. As you can see, we've got a student from Florida and a student from Virginia here, as well as all different types of schools. So that answers that question. Breakdown between 11th and 12th graders. This year's a little bit different. We have a few more seniors than we typically would because we were not open last year. And so many students, this is the case of Camila, what we call deferred, and sort of deferred their enrollment to this year. So this year we do have a few more seniors than we typically would, but a majority of our students do go as juniors. We also have a handful of sophomores who will go annually across all of our 3 countries. How many students are in the program each year, and how does it break down between year-long and semester? That's a really good question. This is our first year offering the semester option, so it's a little unpredictable how that's going to roll out year over year. I will say that there are limited spots in our semester program. Our name is School Year Abroad, and we are predominantly a school year, academic year-long program. So this year, about 75 to 80% of our students are year-long students. And we expect that next year that proportion will be relatively similar. We are seeing increased interest in the semester program for sure, but again, School Year Abroad, our intention is for those students to come for the year if they can. So, but we're very, very happy to have semester students as well. And we're really happy to be able to offer it as an option, because for many students, it's the way they can get there. I always say it's better to have some SYA than no SYA. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see.
As you're looking, Rachel, I'll just add that there was a question about how would one decide that. I think we know that there may be some constraints that families have in deciding whether it would be semester or year long, like the desire to play a particular sport that we don't offer. But if absent that, I think that the payoff for this comes in later than a semester can provide. I mean, the comfort with the language, the comfort with the surroundings. So absent some really strict restriction on maybe deciding on the semester program, if I understood the spirit of that question, the year-long program is where students really get what they came for, and we get to see the growth and the satisfaction of the accomplishments that they're capable of.
Yeah, that's true. That's great. Thank you. So here's a question. What grade are the 2 students speaking? We've lost Camila. Unfortunately, her phone ran out of juice, but we still have Alex. And Camila, as we know, she's a senior, and Alex, you're a junior, correct? So you'll be back to your school as a senior. So we have 2 perspectives. This is an interesting question. What are some of the largest hurdles the students have faced? Obviously, there are not every day, even though Camila is living the dream, and which is wonderful, surely there are some challenges that kids face. And I don't know, Alex, if you can share that, or maybe even, since we only have the perspective of that, either Mr. Scanlon or Alex, other students, some of the hurdles that students have faced this year would be nice to share.
Well, I would say because of how it's set up, I think it's all been the hurdles that I've faced have mostly been in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. So that limits travel a little bit, having to talk about vaccines with the Italian government. But I would say the hurdle that a lot of students have to get over is the initial, for a lot of people coming in and not knowing the language, and sort of being patient and sort of letting the immersive experience work its magic, and allow just the time to have that work so you can really become comfortable with the language, as I've seen.
Oops, you froze for me. Is it froze for you guys?
You might have frozen a little bit there.
We lost you for a second, Alex, and it was
just your last
exciting.
thought.
Yeah, your last thought.
Okay. It was that despite a lot of my friends' doubts about their ability to improve their language skills, the amount of improvement that I've seen in people's Italian skills over the past 4 or 5 months has been, I've been genuinely and pleasantly surprised at how well people have come along in such a short amount of time, which seems hard to believe at first, but it actually does work, and it's amazing.
Oh,
And
that's
I
great.
understand that and first of all, Rachel, I thought you said turtles, so I'm glad that it's hurdles. I was thinking, how am I going to answer this? One is something that Alex mentioned beforehand. One hurdle, I think you sort of take it for granted, Alex, is the hurdle of independence and managing one's time. And we let students manage a lot of their time more than they may be used to, and it becomes a hurdle when they don't manage it properly. And now that when they learn how to do it, I think it's both liberating and a skill they can bring to college and to the rest of their lives. But there is a lot of free time during the school day, and if one is wise, as I see Alex doing, then they manage their time well and have after school free time with host family, getting good night's sleep and all that. I think that's a big one that you probably didn't go. I don't think you went through it, Alex. I kind of watched you carefully, and you sort of had that under control from the beginning.
But yeah, that's great. Thanks. Because it is, like we said, as much as Camilla's living the dream every day, sure, there are challenges along the way for our students. And thank you, Alex, for sort of sharing that perspective. There's one last little piece to this particular question from this participant. And then, do students go in independent travel alone or with other students? They're required to go with other students. They are not allowed to travel on their own in small groups, not large groups. Correct, Mr. Scanlon? Small groups.
Right, groups of 2 or 3. And so groups of 2 or 3 can go to the same city, but we don't want big gatherings of students drawing attention to themselves, but we also do not allow them to be alone.
Yeah, great. So we're coming up on the hour. I'm just scrolling here to see, there's some good questions here. Are there opportunities for badminton, squash, or biking? There are cycling opportunities. Have you heard of badminton or squash, Mr. Scanlon?
I know that they do play badminton in the public schools for PE. And so if we knew about that, we could probably do something with that. Squash, there is no squash court in Viterbo. There are lots of squash being grown in the fields nearby. That's about the best we can do.
Spelt the same way, but something different. All right, I think we've gotten through most of the questions. And again, if things didn't get answered, I'm again sensitive to the time. We've got our folks in Viterbo. It's getting late on a Friday night. So I want to thank everyone for participating, especially Camila, who's not here anymore, but hopefully she's inside and getting warm. But Alex, thank you so much for coming, and Mr. Scanlon too. I know it's late on a Friday night, and our dear parents, wonderful, thank you. It's just wonderful to hear you speak from the heart. Obviously, we know you miss your children, but we really appreciate you sharing them with us. And it's a gift that you're giving them, as you know, that will come back to you too, and that you'll get to enjoy when they come home in May. So thank you all. Thank you, Bryce, and thank you, Shauna, for coordinating this event. We're available here, the admissions team, to continue to work with you through the application process. Quick reminder, application is due February 8th. We'll be reading applications the month of February, and decisions will go out in early March. So if you have any questions throughout the process, we're here. And again, thank you everyone so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Grazie a tutti, arrivederci.